Hi, viewers. The guru asked me, the camera wife, to explain something about how we do these videos. This is educational and a little more. We try to show everything needed to repair or rebuild these machines. We do not show the dirty, boring washing parts time, but we do show pretty much everything else. In this episode, we have some fast-forward sections because not everything goes well all the time. It's been suggested by some mechanic friends of Bud's to just show the tricky or important work. However, since we look at this as do-it-yourself help, we think we should show you all the work, even if we do fast-forward through the boring or repetitive, or even things we have to redo like piston rings that won't stay in the groove while loading into the cylinder. This is all part of what it takes to do this kind of work. And now, here is the compressor guru. Go ahead.
We're back here at the vise. We've been here many a time in other episodes. Very simply, we're going to be pulling the old rings off. Let gravity take that one to the
Throwing
floor.
them on the floor?
Throwing them on the floor. Gravity will take over, baby. That one was intentional.
Somebody has to clean those up.
That's the maid's year off.
It is at home, too.
There we go.
Almost got me with that one.
I tried. Just couldn't do it. I tried though. Camera wife would be so kind as to hand me that half a ring. Thank you. Now, back in there. We have just a little bit of
Guck.
guck in that oil ring slot. Very little. So we have our ever ready carb cleaner. We have our upgraded ring set. The oil ring that we took out was the single piece cast iron oil ring. Going back together, we'll be going with a 3-piece spacer type oil ring.
Similar to what we put on the other compressors.
Correct. These ones have the chrome edge. There's other type rings in here, but these are not dished. And you note they have the chrome edge for the wiper on the oil on the cylinder wall. And when we're doing this, we make sure the two ends that butted together here stay and are not overlapped.
We don't want all those butts together.
And 180 degrees from the opening on the other side, we'll put this opening. The other small ring, or the other skinny ring, was on the bottom of the spacer. This one is on the top of the spacer. And it moves freely in the ring. Oh, by the way, with these aftermarket, we do have directions.
And you're actually going to read them?
Gonna look at them. You know I don't read. This thicker ring is the third ring down. And
Does
it's
it say that?
Yes. and it's just listed as a compression ring. And the outside bevel, is there a mark on it? Remember, our marks always go to the upside. Yes, there is.
So there's a little raised
and the
dot.
outside bevel, we will do a close-up of this later, and I'll hold it in a freeze frame for you. But this has a bevel, and it's wider at the bottom than it is at the top, and the pip is on the top side of it, and that indicates that I have it in the correct position. Very gently, because these are a breakable item. The Guru's never broke one, but that darn Bud has.
It's almost like he's human.
Bud's human.
Yeah.
The Guru, we don't know. He's pretty, you know. Bud's back kills him. The Guru is perfect.
Well, maybe not perfect.
Pretty close. Why not perfect? Because there was only one perfect person, right, Bill?
That's right.
And who was that perfect person?
That would be Jesus.
I thought it was your dad.
Well, he was pretty close. And I'm sure he and Jesus are comparing notes right now.
Probably. Okay.
They're looking down here at you going, wow, Bud. Oh.
Put this down on the second ring, and I'll scatter it about 120 degrees from the third ring with the opening. And I'll follow the directions. These are dished. Can you see the dish on the camera?
Well, let me zero in because you keep moving stuff around there before I quit. You mean because you press down on one side, the other side comes up?
Correct.
Yes.
If I turn it over the other way, it doesn't flip up. So let's take a quick look at the directions. For the second groove, it goes underneath the second ring, and the dish goes, the inside goes, the inside goes down. It goes like this, according to the directions, underneath the second ring. And I will I'll start it 180 degrees from the ring gap. This is one of the problems to these dish spacer rings. We'll do it again. Is this the new ring? Yes. Okay, so as you saw, this ring is apt to overlap, and I don't know if it was overlapped in the piston, but with the ring having never been compressed inside of the cylinder wall, it wants to overhang outside of the ring grooves. So this time, when I put this on, I'm going to keep the back side pushed in so that these don't overlap. And no, this is not the first time I've had to do this. Twice, 3, 4 times. And I'm about 60 degrees away from that third ring. And I'm going to hold the ring out this way. Remember, the inside of the dish goes down underneath that third compression ring. Now I'm underneath it. I'm going to stay underneath it, and I'm going to keep that compression ring pushed into the groove where the end of there we go. And that ring's set. Very delicate. Easy to break a ring. Pip mark goes up. And about 120 off of the other one. The dish on this actually goes the other way and will be on top of the top ring, and that's how the directions tell us to put this one together. If you have directions, follow the directions. And by the way, I'm going to keep this pushed in so I don't have the same issue with the top ring I just had with the second ring. And the top one's always a little easier because you're working on top of the ring instead of underneath. Really is easier. Okay. And those rings are ready for installation into the cylinder. You can see that I put a cotter pin in there and secured it so if this screw ever does come loose, it won't let it turn all the way out and fall into the crankcase.
Okay.
Brand new piston, brand new rod, brand new wrist pin, brand new. And we are going to put our spacer on. This is an identical setup to the low pressure side. We want to put our gap over the pin boss, and we have our 2 rings for the oil ring. And it's in and moving freely in the groove. We have our third ring, which is thicker. It's thicker this way than the other 2 and doesn't require a spacer. And the pit mark goes up. And there's the pit mark. And the bevel was correct. So the pit mark is up, bevel is correct. You use a smaller pair of these. Pit mark up. I did like the sets that were all cast iron and you didn't have spacer rings. They were easier to install, but this is the better system. Then again, you can't say much about a compressor that lasted 60 years to its first rebuild. These two, first and second ring, are identical, and we'll put that right about there. And then we need to put a disc ring with the disc pointing up like that and it goes on the bottom of the ring. And I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to hold in on that ring to make sure it doesn't snap in, overlap, and make it unable to get the other one in. And that is just the way, that's how easy it goes when you watch what you're doing. No comments today, Val?
Do you think it's easier on the smaller one to put them on than the larger
Yeah.
one?
No, it's easier on the smaller one. Pip mark goes up.
So why is it easier?
I think just the diameter. I think it's just, I don't know why.
It's not as awkward.
Huh?
It's not as awkward.
Sure, we'll go with not as awkward. That sounds like a college word. Okay, disc mark. The center, the high part goes up, and we go on top of the piston ring this time. And I'm going to hold in on this side of the piston ring. Oop, got it started on the bottom, we want it on the top of that ring. There we go. And go. And that piston is ready for the cylinder. So I've put some oil on the rings and we're going to work them in. There's a small bevel right here, just like on the Ingersolls. And you do not load rings through the top, you load them through the bottom and you cut your fingers and you work them in just like that.
And you had just put oil on that, huh?
Yes, I did. Uh-oh. Jumped the ring out. Lord, let this go well, please. Would you walk over? Oh, never mind, I got pocket. There we go. persnickety. That's a highly technical vocabulary word. I can't even go there. I'm so tired I can't talk. So, okay. Low pressure's in. Now take note, I left the tabs on this side. I'm going to keep it uniform and keep the tabs on this side when I put the high pressure in. Put a little oil on the rings.
Just what kind of oil are you using there?
That's AMSOIL, synthetic compressor oil. I'm very comfortable with their compressor oil. We've been using it for years and we've had no issues. Sorry if my hand's in the way, but almost has to be, camera wife.
I didn't say anything this time.
There we go. And the tabs are on the same side. So when we go back, we know that which way our connecting rod goes, and we're golden. I'm sweating too bad, I gotta have a break. The crankcase is set. The cylinder walls are loaded with pistons and the connecting rods are hanging in the appropriate place. And before I take another step, I'm going to tell you about something I've done more than once. I've hooked the cylinder wall on the boom here. I've lined everything up. I've let it down. I've hooked up my connecting rods. I've got them to where there's no gap, and I'm going to torque them later. And I look, and I didn't put the gasket in. So friends, at this point, stop yourself and say, I need to get the gasket before I take another step. And it wasn't with a little one like this, because I've done so many 350s compared to the 325s. The cylinder wall on the 350 is probably, I'm going to guess, 100 pound. And it is a bugger to manipulate and wiggle, and so get your gasket out now. You're welcome. Okay, we're going to take the bottom of these rods off, and we're going to put our connecting rod bearings in them. And I'm going to do them one at a time so I can't screw up one side or the other. And just double check my gasket's in place. There's no top or bottom of these. They both have the oil hole to feed the upper part of the connecting rod. You put it together. See this tab?
Turn it toward me. Like, oh, the little bevel at the edge.
edge there, okay.
right here and right here.
Yes.
That is hollowed out. Let me pop it out. Shouldn't say hollowed out. That is machined out right here. And you put the tab of the insert into that tab there.
Okay.
Now, the rods, we're going to push this in a little bit. This is the low pressure rod, and going this way, it matches this rod. So I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to put this insert in this rod.
And you're sure you have that hanging correctly? The big end, which is the low pressure side,
Comes towards the oil pump.
comes towards
The
the
high
oil.
pressure is almost always next to the flywheel.
And that's where the flywheel goes on right here.
Yep.
Hmm.
And you know, see, the tab on this one goes the same way. Get the new insert. And put the insert in with the tab in the tab. That one's ready. Now, this one goes to this rod, and we're going to set it over here. That way we can't mix them up.
Ah. It's like you think ahead.
The illusion of intelligence is simply thinking ahead.
Really, I've never heard that before. And there goes that darn gravity, sucking another thing to the ground.
Great man once said that.
Was that my dad?
No. He was a good guy, I'll say that.
So it must have been my brother.
He's almost as good a guy. Don't tell him I said that.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to line this up as good as I can right now. So, we're going to start with the high pressure side, and we're going to put a little oil on the oil journal. And okay, that is down on the journal. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to slip the cap up onto the bolts. Go. Got a good shot. You want to be looking there. I'm going to run the nuts up on that. I don't have to torque them yet. But I want to keep those bearings in place when I go to turn that crankshaft over to let this arm down to line up the low pressure side. This is not a good job for guys with giant hands. Now, we're going to let this down, we're going to work it down, and we're going to turn this crank clockwise because I want to have the journal here rolled this way for ease of installation of this one. So, and I missed. Side, on the right side, and the insert's still in place, and gotta get some nuts and bolts, and some washers. So I think you can see how having a cherry picker, or at least a chain fall hooked to a roof joist for reassembling these kind of machines is an invaluable tool. And that doesn't mean it's worth nothing, it means worth a lot. You know, I always got confused about the word priceless. You know, all that painting's priceless. No, it's got to be worth something. Now, see that gap come together?
Mm-hmm.
Do that with the other side. I'll have to feel, make sure the gap came together over there. It's just, ooh.
Careful, you will pinch your finger.
Okay. Now, these two, we're gonna work this down and line up 2 bolts, and then we can put the cherry picker away. Get 2 bolts. Okay, that's the right bolt. And while we have a little bit of room,
No air ratchet?
can't fit one in.
Even if you could, would you?
Not on assembly.
No. That was the point. See, I'm showing you all these things I'm learning.
Good. we're going to get 2 bolts run down, and then we're going to turn the crank, see if we turn easy, or the way we should. Okay, drum roll, the moment of truth.
You know you have some that aren't tightened.
Yeah, babe.
Okay.
And we're not bound up. It's important to always check after you put bearings on a crankshaft and make sure that you're not going to end up being tight and not know why. It'd be a shame to put the rest of this all together and bolt it up and then find out that oh, we got to take a rod back down to get a bearing right because the bearing slipped out of place. Bearings are in place. Tighten everything down. I'll get the torque specs and the torque wrench, and we'll torque those connecting rods. And ladies and gentlemen, gearheads of all ages, this is the hardest part about this particular rebuild. You can see it's a little tedious getting the rings on the pistons with the expander ring on it. It's a little more tedious getting them loaded into the cylinder, and it's still tedious putting the cylinder down on the crankcase and getting the rods started. And this is the worst part of this whole rebuild. Even if we had changed bearings, changing the bearings on the crankshaft would have been nothing compared to what we just did.
Do not worry, the guru did properly torque the rods and the cylinder wall bolts. He decided that due to the length of this episode, you really didn't need to see him turn the wrench that many more times. Thank you for watching this episode of The Compressor Guru. Please hit like and subscribe and use the notify bell so you will know when the next new episode is released from The Compressor Guru. God bless you and have a great day.